Mid-April 2021, Fort Davis, Texas. We're staying at Davis Mountain RV Park just outside the city of Fort Davis. This place is all desert, a lot of hard-packed dirt, and not much vegetation to look at. We spent our first day at Fort Davis doing just a little bit of looking around, taking a short walk through downtown Fort Davis, and doing our grocery shopping. It was just too cold to do anything else. But Tuesday was the start of a day that Janet and I had both been waiting for well over a year now. Because on Tuesday morning, Janet and I both got our second COVID shot. So we're finally feeling like our life is starting to go back to normal. And although we were pretty much wiped out on Wednesday because of the COVID shot, Thursday saw us going out on our first hike in the Fort Davis area. We set out and explored Fort Davis, an 1800s-era army post, and hiked the hills around it. Fort Davis was built in 1854 and was intended to protect people from Indians while they were traveling from San Antonio to El Paso. Shortly after the start of the Civil War, it was abandoned by the Union Army and quickly reoccupied by the Confederate forces. Over the years, Fort Davis grew and was expanded to become a central and important military outpost. But by 1891, the fort outlived its usefulness and was ordered abandoned. Now it's a national park, and some of the buildings have been restored to the way they looked back when the fort was occupied. This was the post commander's quarters, and it looked really comfortable. The post also had a very large hospital with its own ambulance service. One wing of this hospital was restored, and examples of the surgical equipment of the day were out on display. Along with the hospital, the post also had its own pharmacy. So far, the park has also been able to restore one of the many enlisted barracks. And honestly, it's not that much different from the enlisted barracks of today. I mean, technology's gotten better, but in essence, it's pretty much the same. After exploring the fort, we took off on the Hospital Trail hike. The start of the trail was smooth and easy, but soon we started to climb the hill that overlooks the fort. This climb became steeper and far more rugged as we went further on this trail. And we probably should have given ourselves one more day to recuperate from the COVID vaccine, because this climb was really wearing us out badly. But once we crested the hill, the hike became far easier, although it became far more rugged. Most of the hike along the top of the hill looked just like this. It felt like we were walking through giant boulders carved right out from the top of this hill. All of this is old volcanic rock from back in the day when this area was covered by volcanoes. But after about an hour of climbing, we finally reached the top and were rewarded with a beautiful overlook of Fort Davis. We took a little extra time looking around since we were really winded, and we were really happy that from here it was all downhill. Perhaps all down cliff would have been a better way to describe this hike. Our downhill route was so steep that this is the first time I've actually seen safety rails put out on a hiking trail. The safety rails were only installed at the very, very top of the hiking trail, but maybe they should have been installed a little bit further down. This hike just made a bunch of short zigzags going back and forth down the face of this cliff. It kind of reminded me of some of the roads that we used to drive on over in Italy. Up and down some of those steep mountains, they too zigzagged back and forth. But as we made our way down, we found some beautiful cactus blooms to look at, and often we stopped just to admire the view of the fort. It took us about 20 minutes, but we made our way all the way back down to the fort. We started our climb way up here at the overlook and made our way over to this little canyon where we started the cliff portion of our downhill hike. Going through this canyon was the steepest and most difficult part of the climb. Once we got past that, it was pretty much a normal hike for the rest of the way down. And once we got to the bottom, we looked back from the way we came and spotted the sign. Would have been good to know earlier. Well, anyway, it's getting late, so it's time to go home and call it a day. So today starts a new and beautiful day in the Davis Mountains of Texas. Our destination for today is the MacDonald Observatory. The observatory has a set of telescopes on Mount Falk and another set of telescopes on Mount Locke. The observatory was established in 1933, but has had many improvements and additions since then. In fact, even today, new telescopes are being added and upgraded. The drive up to the Observatory Visitor Center was a nice, windy road, which took us up to the summit of Mount Falks. Unfortunately, because of COVID, most everything was closed. We were able to explore the Visitor Center, but that was it, and that didn't take long at all. Several smaller telescopes located around the visitor centers are usually used for star watch parties at night and are open to the public. However, they were closed. The main reason we came here was to go to the observatory and go inside and use the telescope to look at the stars. Unfortunately, because of COVID, that didn't happen. So we're definitely going to have to come here again. Just as a point of information, if any of you are thinking of coming to this area and doing the observatory tour, make sure you call ahead at least a month out to book your reservations. I'm told that they book very, very quickly. So, after spending about an hour touring the visitor center and the area around it, Janet and I began to make our way back down the mountain and back to our RV home. So now it was time to set aside the hiking and just relax for a couple of days. One of our favorite ways to relax is to find a local winery and sample the wines of the area. We went to the Château Wright Winery, located in the desert just outside of Fort Davis. So I'll tell you now, I was a little surprised to find some really tasty wines being produced by this winery. Our next kickback and relax day was going to Marfa, Texas. Marfa is one of those little artsy-fartsy kind of towns. We had a good time exploring some of the museums in this town and of course checking out some of the local street art. But after a couple of days of rest and relaxation, it was time to go hiking again, and we picked the Madera Canyon Trail. The Madera Canyon Trail took us behind this hill and then found its way up to the top where we got a beautiful view of the area around it. As far as trails go, this was a fairly easy hike. Not too steep, and where it was steep, the steep didn't last long. Of course, even on an easy trail down here, you still have to pay attention because there are rocks all over the place and it is so easy to catch a toe and fall flat on your face. The steepest part of this trail was at the very beginning, as you made your way up the short steep to the very top of the hill. After that, it kind of leveled off and you made your way across the top and slowly made your way back down to the bottom. The view from the top was nice, and this is more trees than we've seen in a long time. After cleaning the rocks out of our shoes, we started to make our way back down the hillside and back towards the car. About halfway back, we discovered this old dam that looks like it might have been built by one of the local ranchers. The locals tell us that water up here is a big issue and you can never really have enough of it. As I looked at the dam, it looked like it was designed to build a small pond behind it. I'm not sure how often this fills, or if it even fills at all anymore. The weather has changed a lot over the years, and it doesn't rain here as much as it used to. After looking around the dam and wondering what this place might have looked like way back when, we made our way back down the trail into the park where it started. The hike wasn't all that long, but it was long enough for us to enjoy a lunch before moving on. So this lunch wasn't a lunch with the view that we've become accustomed to, but hey, at least we had a table to eat at, so all good. As we made our way back to the RV, we decided to stop at what looked like a really interesting roadside rest stop. This is a really good close-up examples of the hills and mountains around here. They're all like this with just big boulders all over the place that looks like somebody just stacked them up on top of each other. Areas like this are really neat to look at, but they're also a whole lot of fun to climb around in. This wasn't really a trail to anywhere. It was just a nice area alongside the road where you could stop, grab a little lunch, look around, and climb these rocks. And man, were they fun to climb. After climbing around to our heart's content, it was time to call it a day and make our way home. So today is a new day, and we decided to do some sightseeing in Alpine, Texas. Two things about Alpine. First, it sits on something that used to be a river, and second, it's another one of those artsy-fartsy kind of towns. We started our exploration of Alpine with a stop at a local coffee shop. This gave us a great chance just to sit outside, enjoy the warmth, and talk about what it is that we wanted to see today. Although Alpine has several art galleries, what Alpine is really known for is its wall murals. It seems that Alpine has invited local artists to paint murals on the outside of its buildings, and there are a lot of murals. Every building doesn't necessarily have a mural, but a lot of them do, and some of them even go to the point of putting a mural on their dumpsters. Really, really nice. But it's not just mural, it's also some of the buildings and the way they're put together with a real artistic flair. Really pretty to look at. So Janet and I had a great day walking around this town, looking at the art and looking at the architecture. This was a nice change from hiking in the desert, and I think we're going to have to explore more of these towns as we continue our travels. So we thought that we'd spend our last day at Fort Davis exploring the Chihuahuan Desert Nature Preserve. But it was closed because of COVID, so we shifted to Plan B and went back to the Château Wright Winery. Janet and I enjoyed playing with the puppies and just sipping our wine and looking out over the desert in front of us, knowing that it was soon going to be time to leave. So as the day came to an end and a bottle of wine emptied, Janet and I went home and started packing and preparing to leave Fort Davis, Texas. So we're still in Texas and have been for quite a while, so we haven't added any new states, but now we're moving on to New Mexico. See you at our next stop.